Previously we've talked about what if the AFL was built from scratch in the 80s and what if it was built from relocating VFL teams. This time we're going to explore what if the AFL was built from an expanded WAFL. We'll start this off back in the mid-80s, prior to any national competition taking shape. With the VFL currently having the Swans in Sydney, those in charge of the WAFL can see the writing on the wall, and the potential of the VFL looking to expand further outside of Victoria. The WAFL decided to put in place their own plan to expand their league to become a more national competition. The establishing 8 teams are the Claremont Tigers, East Fremantle Sharks, the East Perth Royals, the Perth Demons, the South Fremantle Bulldogs, the Subiaco Lions, Swan Districts and the West Perth Falcons. The WAFL's first location for expansion was in the other major rugby league state of Queensland. The Brisbane Bears are born. With the colours of maroon and gold already in use by Subiaco, it's decided that the Bears will wear maroon and white to be unique while still representing the Queensland state colours. The league looks to establish a team in another major Aussie rules state by sounding out teams in the SANFL. Having explored the possibility of joining the VFL in the early 80s, Norwood would take up the offer from the WAFL and become the first South Australian team in the Western League. The Redlegs keep their iconic jumper, with the addition of a club monogram to add a design element to an otherwise empty Guernsey. The expanded WAFL was a success, and the league looked to continue their expansion to become a truly national competition. The league was rebranded from the WAFL to the AFL. The new National League was becoming much more popular than the SANFL and VFL due to having teams in 2 major football states. Meanwhile, the AFL were considering expressions of interest to join the league from around the country. The next 2 teams to join the league were the Canberra Capitals and the Tasmanian Devils. As the years went by, the AFL continued to be strong, but a lack of teams in Victoria and New South Wales kept the VFL somewhat relevant. Looking to weaken their competitor league, the AFL made a big move by making an offer to Richmond, who had been struggling financially since the mid-80s. With little hesitation, the Tigers left the VFL and joined the AFL. With the Claremont Tigers already existing in the league, Richmond were rebranded the Richmond Jaguars. The next step for the AFL was expansion into New South Wales. With the Sydney Swans already occupying the major city, the AFL looked to Western Sydney to establish their new team. The Western Sydney Blues were born. The National League had reached a point where it had now become the most popular football league in Australia by a significant margin, and with other state leagues becoming clear second tier, many teams had expressed interest in moving to the AFL. Meanwhile, it was becoming apparent that having such a large number of teams in Western Australia was becoming unsustainable. The decision was made that for new teams to be granted entry to the AFL, some would need to merge with relocated WA sides. Collingwood, Port Adelaide and Southport were granted staggered entry to the AFL over the next 5 years. The 2 teams that were financially struggling and were put forward for potential relocation were West Perth and Swan Districts. Difficulties arose with Port Adelaide and Collingwood both refusing to merge with any team other than Swan Districts in an attempt to retain their black and white colours. As a deal that satisfied all parties could not be agreed to, Swan Districts instead chose to merge with Southport and become the Southport Swans. Due to further childish bickering between Port and Collingwood over the Magpie name, the league intervened and decided no team would be allowed to use the nickname. A deal was struck between Port Adelaide and West Perth to become the Port Adelaide Falcons, leaving Collingwood to be granted their own licence. They chose not to take on a new nickname and instead joined the AFL as the Collingwood Football Club. The AFL was now looking to complete its vision of a truly national competition, and only one part of the country was currently unrepresented in the league. It was decided that a Northern Territory team would enter the league, and the Darwin Dingoes were soon born, completing the 16-team AFL competition.